This is DW News live from Berlin. Germany investigates a leak of secret talks on weapons for Ukraine. The government says the Kremlin wiretapped German generals discussing the potential use of German-made cruise missiles to attack the bridge linking Russia to occupied Crimea. Also on the show, the United States joins an international operation to airdrop desperately needed supplies into Gaza. Palestinian children rush forward to receive the aid as the UN again warns hundreds of thousands of displaced people face famine. And the world remembers Iris Apfel, the designer who found beauty everywhere from junk shops to the White House, while proving that true style never grows old. I'm Claire Richards, and welcome to the program. The German government says Russia wiretapped a conversation between German Air Force generals about the war in Ukraine. The officers talk about whether Ukraine could use German-made cruise missiles to attack the bridge linking Russia to occupied Crimea. And Chancellor Olaf Scholz is calling the leak very serious, and authorities have opened an investigation.
It's an explosive leak that is sending shockwaves through Germany's political and military establishment. A recording of a conversation between high-ranking Air Force officers. They talk about this, Taurus, a long-range cruise missile capable of taking out bunkers and other fortified facilities. The officers speak about sending them to Ukraine. They also mention possible targets, including the Kerch Bridge linking Crimea with Russia, seen by Ukraine as a symbol of Russian occupation. One officer allegedly says this: "We've looked closely at the bridge. It is unfortunately like a landing strip due to its size. That means it is entirely possible we would need 10 or 20 missiles." It's a major embarrassment for German Chancellor Olaf Scholz. He's promised to get to the bottom of the leak.
What's being reported is very serious. That's why it's necessary to begin a very thorough, intensive and rapid investigation.
Scholz has so far refused to send Taurus missiles to Ukraine, to the frustration of many lawmakers. He's concerned they could be used to hit targets on Russian soil. The recording was posted to social media by Margarita Simonyan, the head of Russian state broadcaster RT. Kremlin officials are clearly enjoying the moment.
I don't know how to describe what happened, but our NATO colleagues are obviously involved. And I don't know how they will explain that to their own population.
Germany's military is scrambling to plug the leak and wondering whether any more of its conversations could have been taped.
DW's Brussels bureau chief Alexandra van Namen is with the German Chancellor in Rome. I asked her whether Olaf Scholz has given any more details about the leak.
No, Olaf Scholz kept his cool here in Rome. We just got this one statement on the matter, a statement in which the German Chancellor stressed that this is a serious matter that is being investigated. But then he went on with his program here in Rome. But of course we know that he also knows that he is facing uncomfortable questions at home, especially when it turns that it's true that this conversation among high-ranking German officers was conducted not on a secret internal army network, but on the WebEx platform, despite repeated warnings by Germany's intelligence services that Russia uses espionage and sabotage as part of its hybrid war. And we are already hearing from lawmakers in Germany, from lawmakers in the opposition, but also from members of the coalition that the German Chancellor is leading, who are demanding consequences, saying that the incident has to be investigated, but that Germany also needs to increase its security and counterintelligence.
Now, the U.S. has joined an international operation to airdrop desperately needed supplies into Gaza. The Pentagon says 3 Air Force planes carried out the first drop of around 38,000 meals. The Biden administration says Israel supports its intervention to bolster existing efforts by Jordan and other nations. The UN has been warning that famine in Gaza is almost inevitable unless aid deliveries increase significantly. A warning to our viewers that our next report does contain distressing images.
Consoling each other. The boys have survived an Israeli airstrike in central Gaza. Many others did not. But the fighting in the Gaza Strip isn't the only danger Palestinians face. Disease and famine have become a major threat. Children are most at risk. Starvation has now taken the lives of several children.
So the official records yesterday or this morning said there was a 10th child officially registered in a hospital as having starved to death. A very sad threshold, similar sad as the 30,000 deaths we reached all over Gaza. The unofficial numbers can unfortunately be expected to be higher.
And the toll is climbing. Qatari network Al Jazeera broadcast this footage from Gaza City on Friday, when scores of Palestinians were killed as they surrounded an aid convoy. The Hamas-run health ministry and survivors accused the Israeli army of opening fire on the crowd. Israel said limited shots were fired near the aid convoy, but insisted that most of the dead were trampled or run over by the aid trucks. A UN team visited Al-Shifa hospital on Friday. It reported having seen a large number of gunshot victims. The incident has amplified the demand for more aid to be delivered without delay. Neighboring Egypt and Jordan recently airdropped essential items into the Gaza Strip. Now, the US has followed suit, while President Joe Biden pushes Israel to improve other routes.
We're going to insist that Israel facilitate more trucks and more routes to get more and more people the help they need. No excuses, because the truth is, aid flowing to Gaza is nowhere nearly enough. Now, it's nowhere nearly enough. Innocent lives are on the line, and children's lives are on the line. And we won't stand by and let until we get more aid in there.
Biden has also signaled a ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel could be reached soon, which many here hope would be a lifeline amid destruction and loss.
Let's go to Washington, D.C. and our correspondent Janelle for more. Janelle, there has been a growing humanitarian crisis in Gaza for months now. Why is it that we are seeing the Biden administration doing this just now?
Well, the Biden administration had been looking into making these kinds of airdrops for a while now, but it hadn't done so until now, it says, because of the logistical challenges involved. But what really seems to have moved the needle here is that incident that we described in our report there earlier of those deaths around the humanitarian aid convoy, where Israeli troops stand accused of opening fire on Palestinians trying to get food from the food trucks. Now, there's still a lot of uncertainty around what exactly happened there, but White House spokesperson John Kirby said that incident highlighted the need to get to find creative ways to get greater assistance and faster and at scale into Gaza. U.S. officials are treating this incident as a key incident, something that highlights the loss of control in Gaza and the dire humanitarian situation there. At the same time, it's important to note that this is all happening at a time where the Biden administration support for Israel is causing him quite a bit of domestic support. He is losing a lot of political capital and a lot of face among especially young voters here in America. He is under pressure to show that he is doing what he can for the Palestinians. Although, of course, currently there is an ongoing reasonable debate around how much airdrops are going to accomplish without any kind of systematic distribution on the ground.
Now, tell us more about that relationship between the U.S. and Israel, because I spoke to a former U.S. aid official today who said that it was a little offensive to the United States from its close ally Israel that Washington isn't able to get aid in another way other than airdrops.
Indeed, it's no secret that the Biden administration is growing increasingly frustrated with the Israeli government and how it is choosing to prosecute this war. The high death count, the dire humanitarian situation that's prompted Biden to use words like indiscriminate, like over the top, when describing Israel's bombing of Gaza. Earlier, Biden tweeted that the amount of aid flowing to Gaza is not nearly enough and will continue to pull every stop we can to get more aid in. Administration officials have been quick to stress that these airdrops are just the beginning and that they will continue. But this is part of the problem, Claire, and the problem that you are alluding to. There is, of course, the argument that these airdrops would not be needed if the Biden administration were, in fact, able to pressure Israel into opening more land crossings to allow more aid in. The message that the Biden administration wants to send Israel is that they should allow more aid in, but inadvertently, the message that is being sent instead is that Biden is unable to deliver on the kind of pressure that would allow Israel to do that.
Well, thank you very much for that context. That is our correspondent, Janelle Dealon in Washington, D.C. I'm going to change gears. The designer and fashion leader Iris Apel has died at the grand old age of 102. Now, she was a fixture of the fashion world for more than half a century. Also, an interior design style setter and a passionate collector of contemporary art.
I didn't give a damn about going to the party or being at the party. It was getting dressed for the party. And there's truth and poetry in that.
Designer Alexander Wang called her the world's chicest centenarian. Iris Apel was instantly recognisable by her oversized glasses and colourful costume jewellery.
You can learn good taste, but you can't learn style. I think they're two different things. I think style is in your DNA, and once you have it, you have to work at it. But good taste can be taught.
But there was more to Apel than her flamboyant fashion sense. She was also an accomplished textile designer.
I sometimes look at a piece of fabric and I listen to the threads. They tell me a story, they sing me a song, they do something.
A New York native, Apel studied art before working for a fashion magazine. For 4 decades, she and her husband restored and sold textiles, including to the White House. Apel was also an avid collector. 2 floors of her Park Avenue apartment were filled with work by the great designers of the 20th century. Her own clothing and jewellery collection was so celebrated, New York's Metropolitan Museum of Art dedicated a retrospective exhibition to it in 2005. But Apel was no fashion snob. She said she was as likely to pick up interesting jewellery in a Harlem junk shop as in Tiffany's.
I don't buy, I don't care how valuable it is in the marketplace. It could be a piece of junk. If it appeals to me, then it's for me.
Apel's popularity peaked in the final decades of her life. The 2014 documentary Iris introduced her to a new generation.
That's so nice to hear. Makes a girl feel like there's still a chance.
The self-described geriatric starlet may no longer be with us in person, but the inspiration Iris Apel gave us will linger on.
Now, just before we let you get on your way, let's get a reminder of our top news stories at this hour. Germany is investigating a leaked conversation about Ukraine possibly using German-made cruise missiles to attack the bridge linking Russia to occupied Crimea. The discussion between German generals surfaced on Russian social media. And the United States has joined an international operation to airdrop humanitarian supplies into Gaza. The Pentagon says Air Force planes carried out the first drop of 38,000 meals, bolstering existing efforts by Jordan and other countries. And that is your news update at this hour. Coming up next, a reporter takes a look at the slow pace of reconstruction following last year's devastating earthquakes in Turkey. Stay tuned, or there's always more news and analysis online at DW.com. Thanks very much for watching.